Alright guys, so we are painting this last room here at the house. We've got it primered. We're getting ready to paint the walls. But I just wanted to give you guys some painting tips. If you're going to paint your house or you're going to be doing a lot of interior painting. So, painting tips. So, got an 18-inch roller here. This is the Purdy Colossus. This is the best roller that we use. Use an 18-inch roller. 14 or 18, don't use the 9-inch. I mean, you can, but you're gonna get tired and it's gonna take twice as long. So I prefer the 14-inch, but this is all they had when I went and got a roller. So I'm using an 18-inch roller. The next tip is always do the cut-in first. I mean, I do it first. Don't always, but that's my tip, all right? My tip is do the cut-in first because that's what takes the longest. And yeah, and that's why I do it first. It takes the longest, it's the most annoying. Once that's done, the roll will be fast. So I usually start with the ceiling cut in or the crown molding cut in, do the corners, then work my way down, do the doors, the trim on the floor. That's the order that I recommend doing it. There's always differences in different situations, but for the most part, that's the way to go. Alright guys, next tip is I prefer to use a little scaffold ladder versus a regular ladder. Of course you can do it. This just gives you the liberty of, in a normal size room, almost doing the entire top cut in without having to get up and down on the ladder too many times. So I'll be able to do this wall, most of it. I'll start over here on this end and get all the way over here, and then I'll just have to scoot it over to do the last part. So that's why I prefer that little scaffold ladder. So that's something that would help you if you don't like going up and down the ladder so much. Alright, and the next tip is when you're cutting in, use an angled brush and come in at an angle sideways like this versus trying to do the line like this. I mean, I've seen people paint like that, but this is the way that I do it. These corners, you just go the opposite way. And then you come back and lower your line so that your roller doesn't even have to get close to the ceiling. This is why we do it so thick. You can just do the line, but then you risk having to get your roller closer to the trim. So cut in sideways. That's one tip right there. And then when you're doing the cut in, do it at least as thick as the brush, maybe a little bit thicker, so that your roller doesn't have to come all the way up to the ceiling or the trim and you don't risk touching all that. Next tip, so also when you're already up here cutting, some people like to cut all the way around the room and then do the doors. I just go ahead and do everything at this level while I'm already up here. So if I'm already up here doing this top part, I'm gonna go ahead and do down the corner a little bit, enough to where I don't have to come back and get back on this ladder again. So go down to about as high as I can go, standing on the floor. Same thing with the doors. You see how I did about halfway down, not halfway, about a third of the way down. Well, I do that so that I cut everything at this level at once, so I don't have to come back and get on this ladder again. And in this case I do because I have crown molding, but if it's just your wall and your ceiling, one time you do the ceiling, you do the tops of the doors, you do the corners, and you don't have to get back on that ladder again. So keep you a little bit safer and you don't have to go up and down as much. Alright, if you are changing the color on your trim in the room, or if you're doing another coat after, then don't worry too much about getting paint on it when you are doing the walls, because you come back and make a new line and it saves you a bunch of time versus trying to make that straight line so you don't get any on the trim. If you're already going to repaint it, if you're already going to do another coat, if you're going to change the color, then just come through with your brush. And I'm not saying be sloppy, but don't worry about getting a bit on the top, because we're going to come back and we're going to remake that line. So much faster than trying to make the line. You'll get the room cut in half the time, and then you'll spend your time making the line when you come back with the white or whatever color you are putting on your trim. Alright guys, so got everything cut in and you're ready to roll. So you got your 18-inch roller, you put paint on it, and so I always tell the guys, don't be afraid to put paint on the wall. So don't try to put pressure on it and get all the paint out of the roller and then come back. Like, the paint is meant to go on the wall, so don't be afraid to do thick coats. Don't drip it, don't leave it running, but also don't try to roll the entire room with one dip of paint, if you know what I mean. And so we are going to start on this wall over here, back here, and we're going to do V shape. So we start in the top corner, we work our way down, we go over a little, back down, then we go back. You'll see how I work my way back and smooth that out so that we don't leave any lines. And then I'll come back and dip. Even for these little walls, I'll come back and dip a couple times. I don't want to try to get all the paint out of the roller and try to get the whole wall done at once. Alright, so make sure your drop cloth is good. Alright, so we start top corner. Alright, then I left most of the paint on this side, so I'm going back. Alright, and it's thick, but it's not dripping. That's it, guys. You work your way from the top down. I do that even if there's no trim in the middle right there. I still do the top half first and come back and do the bottom half. You can do the top and the bottom at the same time and work your way. More preference. On the bottom here, I just go across. Alright guys, so there we have it. I didn't roll this wall behind me because this is going to be an accent like pink wall, but there's the rest of the room. Alright, walls are done, and if I wanted to I can go ahead and do the trim. I'm going to let it dry, go grab something to eat, and come back and then we'll do the trim.